Right, it's finished. Crystal Palace 0, Arsenal 1. That's a massive game for Arsenal's Premier League title race. It feels like the pressure already. Game week 2 in the Premier League is massive for Arsenal. You see Declan Rice, Mikel Arteta on the pitch at Selhurst Park in absolute jubilation of this result, keeping a clean sheet. It's a very, very hard place to go. I don't blame them. And getting a 1-0 win when it could have been a 1-1 draw, it could have been a 0-0 draw. It was that kind of game, very, very tight, and Arsenal did get over the line. In this video, we'll talk about, obviously, the goal itself and all the key moments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's start off first half. It was all Arsenal. They had about 70-odd% possession in the first half. The way Partey from right back was knocking the ball into Declan Rice, I thought Declan Rice was stupendous. He was unbelievable in the first half. I thought the way he knocks the ball around, it is like a Rolls Royce. You can see the difference between him and even someone like I don't want to say Calvin Phillips, but someone that's just slightly not on that same level. He's a borderline world-class defensive midfielder. The first time balls, the power of driving through midfield, the ability to get away from players, and even his work rate, his engine is very comparable. I'm going to be saying it on this channel a lot. He's got a Patrick Vieira vibe to him. There's 1 minute he's turning away from Doucouré, flicking the ball into Eddie Nketiah when he chips it over the bar. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then literally 2 minutes later, at the other end, he's putting a challenge in at left back against Jordan Ayew. So Declan Rice, if he stays fit for Arsenal, they'll have a punching chance this season, because he's that important, in my opinion. I think he's absolutely fantastic, no question about it. Let's talk about that Eddie Nketiah chance. It was the one moment where Palace got sliced open. It was, Arsenal using that kind of tactic of getting the fullbacks high, playing balls in, out, stretching midfielders and centre-backs away, and having runners going between the gaps where the space is left. And Declan Rice occupies a space by driving into midfield. I think the ball's played into him from Saka, I think, or Odegaard. First time into Declan Rice. Declan Rice, a beautiful little weighted pass into Eddie Nketiah. And the finish is really poor. There's this kind of optimism around Arsenal. I don't blame them. They got a young, sort of healthy squad, a very, very exciting squad. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade in that regard. But there's a lack of ruthlessness there from Eddie Nketiah. I think you want to be seeing him hit that hard and low. If there's a save from Sam Johnson, fair enough. But the little floater, it is a little bit too Hollywood for me. I would have seen Guardiola, Ferguson, Mourinho absolutely berating Nketiah for that. And I get it's kind of this free-flowing Arsenal way a little bit. But I think taking a chance like that, I don't really think Eddie Nketiah got a chance in the rest of the game, which says a lot about how hard Palace are to break down, how rare it is in the Premier League to get an opportunity where you're so close to being on goal and you kind of loop it over the bar. I think it's a little bit wasteful, in my opinion. And Arsenal, without that chance, I think they were limited very, very well by Palace. I thought Mark Gahey was absolutely fantastic. Anderson's a very, very underrated centre-half from Crystal Palace. And Doucouré and Lerma look like a kind of foundation in midfield that will be very, very hard for sides to break down in the near future. Second half, Eze breaks through. I think it's a ball from Saka. Anyway, Sam Johnson absolutely cleans him out. It's really poor from Sam Johnson. Eddie Nketiah buys the penalty, and Martin Odegaard slots it home. So fair play to Martin Odegaard. It was a tense penalty, yeah, I think it was an absolutely fair penalty. And at that point, you felt that Arsenal were always going to keep the advantage, and they were going to go on to win 2-3-0 until something that was a very crazy moment in the game didn't warrant it, in my opinion, and that was obviously Tomiyasu's red card. The first one was soft for time wasting, maybe it is just about a yellow card. Second one, he didn't really pull Jordan Ayew. That is the reality of the situation. He didn't really have a hand on his shirt if you look at it, and they've apparently got 1 million cameras in the 4K cameras that you can zoom in. He actually didn't have any kind of material. If we're going to get molecular about this, he wasn't really holding Ayew back. I think Ayew dived, and it was at that kind of weird position on the pitch where why would a player dive? Well, it happens, especially if the player doesn't think he's going to make the counter-attack anyway. I might as well dive, and it's almost always a bookable offence, but it's really, really soft. I thought Tomiyasu was pretty good today as a left-back, obviously being asked to kind of play wherever he can across the back four at points, and he'll be a big miss for Arsenal in the next game. I think it was completely unwarranted, in my opinion. And the referee today, soft, a bit insipid. I mean, some of the decisions at the back end of the game. There's a moment where obviously Eze runs through on goal. I think it's against Declan Rice. He murders Declan Rice either way. He's going between Ben White and Declan Rice, I think it is. It is a penalty in my opinion. I think there's a leg that goes out. If it's not a penalty at the very minimum, then he should be getting a yellow card, as he doesn't get that either. So I'm not so sure what the situation is with the referees in this country. They can't make bold decisions. They live by the letter of the law, and there's kind of no. I always think the best referees are able to kind of gauge the football situation first and then apply that to the law. And it shouldn't just all be reading off a textbook, in my opinion. And I think the referee today was absolutely shocking, in my opinion. And it's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse. How is VAR not telling him that's a penalty? Not the most controversial one in the last couple of weeks. That's the reality. And for me, it was a penalty. What can I say? The red card allowed Palace to get higher up the pitch. They were able to create more chances, whip things in. It will be an issue for them. They got so much lacking in quality up front. It's not Roy Hodgson's fault. They obviously signed the kid from Brazil. He's not fit. But, you know, Schlupp, Edouard, they're bottom half championship players at best, in my opinion. You know, Ayew was lively. He's got limited quality. And when Mitchell was making overlapping runs, who is the one offensive kind of fullback out of Ward and him, you know, Mitchell had a lot of runs that he wasn't getting fed into. When Mitchell had the ball, he wasn't able to give Schlupp the ball and stretch Arsenal's back line. And Arsenal, when they brought Gabriel on, managed the situation notably well. And they saw out the result, 1-0. I think we have to talk about Kai Havertz a little bit. I think from the front three, all lively, all had chances. The midfield, even Partey at right back. I think Ben White at centre half as well, fantastic. Even the keeper at the back end of the game, kind of making saves. Kai Havertz is just a glorified rebound player, if that makes sense. You know, when you used to be, you know, waiting for your mates to rock up at school and you're hitting the ball against the wall for 5-10 minutes and you're just moving with the ball, knocking it off the wall. Kai Havertz he's a rebound player on the pitch. He doesn't stretch the defence. He doesn't have a danger in terms of goal scoring. Can't beat a man. Defensively weak. There's a couple of moments where he picks up a yellow card in the game for a bit of a weird challenge at the end of the game. So he's not going to dominate midfields. I don't think he controls the game with passing range. I think he's just a player that Rice can link up with, give the ball and give it back to Odegaard. It's just like a rebound. It's like a yo-yo. He's like a yo-yo. It goes out and it comes back. He doesn't do anything with it. So all the question marks, you know, about Kai Havertz are still there for me. And I think Arsenal, every game they have these kind of hard away days. Even Forest at the back end of that game, they could have drawn that game. So Arsenal aren't at the races. They're getting the results, and that's why they celebrated at Selhurst Park like they won the Champions League final. And they've still got a few things to address. I still think Eddie Nketiah are not ruthless enough. I still think Kai Havertz is a big issue there, in my opinion. But the back four settled. They look very, very promising. Zinchenko came on, which is important for them as well. And Arsenal are back to kind of being joint top of the Premier League table, which is important beyond belief based on last season. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate it. I'll see you soon.